Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me again for a video presentation. Today we're going to talk about how Western Heights School District's STEAM Center ties in to benefiting Mannix Barnes and Robert Everman through their company that they work for, Onefire Holding. As you are well aware, before coming to be the superintendent at Western Heights, Mannix Barnes was CEO of the company. At the same time that Mannix Barnes was CEO of the company, Robert Everman was the chief operating officer of the company. After Mannix Barnes took the position as superintendent with the Western High School District, Robert Everman became the CEO of Onefire Holding. During the time that they were at Onefire Holding, aerospace services and aerospace parts supply companies were retained or purchased, invested in. They are the primary shareholders. Onefire is. At the same time, Barnes and Everman were pushing for us to pass a bond measure for a STEAM Academy. Later, that STEAM Academy become primarily focused on aeronautics and flight center. In the last 2 years, what you've heard is things like, we're going to put pilots out with pilot license. We're going to have our kids leave the program with pilot license, which is all good. I'm perfectly happy with that, but I do not want the CFO of a company making a decision on how our kids are taught. Onefire has invested in 2017. They invested in Onefire Aerospace Services. They followed up that recently, within the past year and a half, I believe. I wasn't able to get an exact date from QAA.com, but it's a aircraft parts supplier. They supply everything from oil filters to gas pumps to just about anything you need for the day-to-day maintenance of your aircraft. Now, what is a holding company? A holdings company is someone or a company or an LLC that holds controlling stocks or ownership in another company without holding the liabilities if the company fails. It means that, let's say, QAA.com, Quality Aircraft Accessories, goes under. That means that there's no big loss for Onefire. Onefire just writes it off as a bankruptcy. They'll do a capital gains loss, and it's done for with them. Even though this company has filed bankruptcy, it has no effect on Onefire Holdings. So I wanted everybody to understand what a holdings company was. And now, as you see on LinkedIn, Robert Everman, before he says we're just making this up, he is the chief financial officer of the holdings company. He was the chief operating officer prior to that. It has University of Oklahoma, but I'm pretty sure he never graduated. I don't know. Most people put their graduation date on their LinkedIn profile. He chose not to. Don't know why. Now, here's the groups also. That way he can't say that I'm just making this up. This is from the Onefire Holdings Company LLC's web page. Onefire Aerospace Services LLC. And also then you have QAA.com, Quality Aircraft Accessories. The rest of these are just no concern. I mean, unless they're doing something for the school or something. Like, I'd like to know who does our parking lot maintenance, if we've had any done, if they're going to do it in the future. Here is QAA.com, the website, the authority on aircraft accessories. I didn't want him to come back and say that that's not what they do. That's exactly what they do. They sell accessories, manufacturer brand. They have an e-store where you can purchase it online. They're based out of Tulsa in Florida. Now, here's where we think things are going. Here's where it benefits Mannix Barnes and Robert Everman. Robert Everman is currently the CEO of Onefire Holding. Barnes was the previous CEO of Onefire Holding. Currently, Robert Everman is the board president. He is also the CEO. He was in 2019, 2020, had connections. And Mannix Barnes is the superintendent. So all the key decision makers of these two organizations are all in bed together. Now, what they do is they invest in these companies that supply aeronautical parts. So people, if you know anything about aircrafts, it costs you probably if I had to give a rough guess off the top of my head, probably flight school and everything, you're looking at $45,000 a student. That's curriculum and everything. Now, these companies, when they take them up to fly to get their pilot license, it's hundreds of hours in the air. That literally costs the school districts hundreds of dollars. Because if you look at the cost of a person, let's say they got to get 10 hours in an aircraft, it costs the aircraft $125 per operating. That's $1,200 for just to get the basic license. But what also the reason why it costs $125 to go up in that plane is you have limited hours on things like oil filters in an airplane, gas pumps in an airplane. All these things have to be replaced as hours of service are accumulated on an aircraft. So it can wind up being very costly to run a flight school to get pilot license. So what they did is they invested in these companies at the same time that they were getting the district to invest in flight schools for our children. We were never told that they were going to use the bond money to turn the STEAM Center into a pilot school, which I find, like I said, once again, pilots get paid a lot of money. There's a shortage of pilots. But my main concern is Everman doing this for the betterment of our children, or is he doing this because his company stands a chance to make a lot of money off of providing these services, promoting their aerospace parts and services to the pilots? When the kids go over to the school, what insurances do we have that they're not going to promote their websites and their services to these pilots to get them to purchase because we're sending them kids to learn how to fly from them? And then the pilots, what insurances do we have that they're not going to take the money that the school district is paying them to teach our kids to fly, turn around and purchase the parts from these companies that are being promoted to them by Everman and Barnes and put money back into Everman and Barnes' pocket? The reason why I say Everman and Barnes is something that some people have been saying. I don't know if it's true or not, and probably without a warrant, you're never going to find out. But something that should be questioned is people have been asking, has Mannix Barnes, due to his $220,000 base salary, has he been investing in Bob Everman's account? Or in Bob Everman's Onefire Holdings? It's also been said that other people have invested in from the district and the administration in the Onefire Holdings. That is a clear conflict of interest if it's been occurring, and could help explain why a 1-year superintendent with no experience is making $259,000 with full compensation. When you add everything that he's getting up, it's $259,000 this past year. So he's done made $500,000 off this district. Yet I don't see performance that would require that amount. So is he giving money back into Everman's company, this Onefire Holding, where Everman is CEO at? Or is he saving it up? I don't know. But I would like to know. I would like to know if he is investing in this company. Because if he's investing in this company, then there's a clear conflict of interest that they're making a profit off of their position, which is against state law and against our board as Western Heights policy and against the state's board's recommendation. How much of the district's money would be invested in the board and Barnes and by Barnes or by the board and Barnes into the aerospace program at Steam? Like I said, it's going to cost $1,200 just to get the basic license. That don't get you flying commercial. That just gets you to where you can basically fly a plane without an instructor in it, a little Cessna. So that's not going to get our kids up and flying. And how much money are we willing to put into it? There's been no financial numbers given. There's been no curriculum given. There's been nothing. They've just been like, we're going to get a pilot license. How? When? What? And the final question that we all have that we were wondering about, does Onefire Holding receive benefits from Everman and Barnes's positions on the board and as superintendent? Are they getting? Are any of their holdings, any of the companies that Onefire Holdings has invested in, are they receiving any benefit by Everman and Barnes? I seen the paving company or the resurfacing company. Has this district ever given them a contract? Have they been considered for a contract? It can be argued that it's not illegal because it is not directly related to Everman, meaning Everman doesn't have control over whether they take a contract or not. But on the other hand, it can be argued that it's unethical and illegal because Everman is the CEO of it and the president of the school board. So I would like to know, what's the separation between the two? Are they a clear separation that none of the companies that Onefire Holdings that Everman and Barnes has worked for either presently or in the past is not, they're not getting benefits from their positions within the Western Heights School Board? I personally believe that what they're doing is they're investing in their future. If the pilot program takes off, we have to get parts to teach these kids how to change out, like a fuel pump. What is a fuel pump? What's it look like? For hands-on instructions, you need all those components. And you got to purchase them from somewheres. So are we sure they're not being purchased from subsidiaries to Onefire Holding? That's all I have this time. But just food for thought. I mean, I think everybody knows they're corrupt. This just furthers the corruption theory that they're not doing right by our kids and by our district. Thank you so much for joining.